And when they start the juggling, I've only had it 10 years that one person has tripped me up by actually knowing how to juggle and do it, but they'll get the same outcome. The ball's always hit the floor. And then that becomes the framing point of validity, measure what you intend to measure, reliability, consistent, persistent, reproducible. And then that one demonstration is the scaffold for the next 2 lectures, the next 2 days of content. But trying to find something at the beginning of each class that serves as some point of engagement. To just, I mean, kind of like a trigger point for them to refer to.
And especially that is one of those subject areas that most students find.
They don't understand it.
Yeah, still and boring, they don't understand it. Okay, what else? No, I heard lots of good things.
Eric's got some good stuff.
Come on, Eric.
Come on, Eric.
I'm deferring to the professor.
Oh.
You do saddle me with the most boring problem possible.
Oh boy.
Tell jokes, show videos.
Okay.
Call people out, pick up people. It's like a one-man show up front. We've got the smart board. I draw pictures and graphs and charts and things like that. And I run it around. I try a combination of everything that we talked about. I'll think like it works.
So what do you think, what is the one thing that you do you think works the most to engage with? All right, we'll come back to you. We'll give you a second there.
All right, I was teaching your course, your project, and the videos really got me engaged in the subject. They really took.
Okay, so what was this? Describe this.
We did, so I taught an elective course on vitamins and supplements, and I asked them for a final project to create a proprietary blend supplement. So they did a number of different things, and I said I wrote 5 different herbs or supplements or whatever, and you had to come up with evidence basis for including them all in your supplements. So if you wanted to treat hangovers, some people did skincare, some people did, what did Shane do? This was really fun.
Hair growth, right?
Yeah, hair growth, muscle growth, stuff like that. And then they had to create an advertisement that would amuse me.
So really they're engaging you. Okay.
Well, a little bit of flipping the classroom there with that. And some of them were pretty boring. A lot of classes.
You got a lot of male enhancements.
Oh yeah, a couple of natural male enhancement products. Also, so it was just okay. And they found that I gave them free rein to let them have fun and just make it PG-13 or better. And
Better as in towards G rating. Okay. Yes.
In the lab, we used a program called Classroom Presenter, and there was like 6 groups of 4 in the class or 5 in the class, and so each group on their laptops, as they worked through different pieces of cases, each group member had a scribe, so they wrote down their results on their Classroom Presenter or on their tablet, and as an instructor in front, you can display whatever you want on the front. So it kind of saved time because as they were working, they were writing things down rather than coming to the front of the room and then writing things on the overhead. And because they didn't know who necessarily information was going to be displayed, they all documented and wrote things down. And they were able to use that later on too for their written assignment. So I think it made a good use of the class time, but also got them working because they knew that they could be up on the screen.
And so that's then is a good use of the technology that you're putting it to use for what you want to do versus what they might prefer. Russ. Now there's more.
I guess I can give an example of a healthcare communications course that myself and Dave does. We broke down to the lecture component, but also the majority of the classroom time is spent on group presentation and face-to-face, patient, student, pharmacist, they pretend to counsel a patient. So one student is a patient, the other student is a pharmacist. And of course they're graded including with evaluations. They have to evaluate their peers anonymously. And the pharmacist evaluates, the student who plays pharmacist evaluates himself or herself. So, and the feedback where we get from students that really they get a whole lot more from the group presentations they have to prepare and the one-on-one interactions that are graded on versus the didactic lecture. But it's all for grades. I'm not sure that's part of engagement.
Sounds like it is. You're making it easier.
Right.
So what about from more of the pharmaceutical sciences side? Seems to tend to be a little more difficult to do these types of things, or at least on the surface it appears to be.
I'll work on problems in class or kind of
Okay.
group solving, problem solving.
And so how do you work on the problems? You like present the problem, they work on something, and you go through it? Or?
Depends. I've done both. You can put something up on a PowerPoint slide and give me 5 minutes to sort of talk through it, or I have giving them handouts with problems on it, and staff every so often if I talk about something and say it's working on a problem, get some thinking a little bit.
Yes.
I'll take a subject that maybe something in terms of abuse class, for example, and instead of standing up there and talking about 15 different drugs, I break them into groups of 5, give them a half hour to make a lecture on their drug, and in 45 minutes they all have to go and talk about it. They enjoy that a lot more than just me talking.
And so probably during that time, then they're probably researching.
They have to research it and put it
So they're using
together.
their computers to do that, to find information, and then they're basically learning it super fast.
And they'll, 5-slide lecture, they'll talk about heroin or whatever, and then the next group will go. As long as you're making sure that the content they're presenting is correct.
Okay. I like that. Yes. So I said everybody to think there are 3, so we got 1, 2. So there should be like 100 and some really good examples here. So we
Nice,
are.
we could share.
I remember when I was in school, our meth computer did think, pair, share, which I remember liking it because you thought for yourself having more computer next door to whoever, person next to you, and then some people were called out or whoever. I liked it because then you discuss it and it was really interactive for a few minutes. It broke up the class.
The classroom.
Yeah.
So this is sort of like in the middle of a lecture, then
Yeah.
stop for a little
Like
bit.
20 minutes in or 40 minutes in.
We have the pleasure of and privilege of teaching self-care therapeutics, so we have a lot of hands-on opportunities. So we do a product showcase, we have a bunch of products, they can taste it, touch it, feel it, compare it. We made up a worksheet so that they can be guided in their direction of going from product to product. And they really, I think, enjoy having that advantage of opening up products and trying them, but having it focused where they have direction and not just all over the place trying these things. We did that twice in the semester. We also did an interactive session where we brought in practitioners from alternative medicine, had them participate in things like Tai Chi and progressive muscle relaxation, and broke it down in groups and did that for a 2-hour block of time. And that definitely got them, of course, involved and thinking outside of the box where they're not just going to tell, here, take this vitamin. They're going to say, you need to relax a little, if you're stressed out, you have high blood pressure, maybe try some things that you didn't consider before, because those obviously, what you're doing isn't working right now. So we were able, because of the nature of the class and the material, we were able to do a lot of interactive stuff, and I know that course allows for that, which was really nice for us. But it's just that. And we teach a 2-hour Wednesday, so during the break, we also started a go out and walk for 10 minutes. Instead of breaking and staying in the classroom and sitting down and doing nothing, we invited them out to walk with us. And at the end of the semester, you would walk 7.5 miles if you just came out for 10 minutes with us. So the first day was like 0 degrees. The next week was like a snowstorm. The next week was like a rainstorm. But every single week we had learners come things and try other things. They're definitely outside their comfort. We also moved their seats, and that was like chaos. We just asked them to try it for a month. We ended up going back on that and letting them sit where they wanted. You know, we tried. It was so far out of their comfort level, though. They were just, they didn't know what to do. So, we tried.
I had my medicinal chemistry professor just moved so fast that if you weren't constantly engaged with him, you would miss everything. And I don't know if that's a great teaching technique.
You told me you never went.
That was the class I went to in college. But I don't know, he was just so rapid fire that you were forced to be engaged or else you were
We have a theater major in our university, and so for one of my an elective I taught in the fall, we would pick a drug, and all the students would have 10 minutes to look it up, and then we would have a mock patient counseling session, and a student from the theater major would come in and be the patient, and it was kind of unknown who was going to be picked for the day, and when the student wasn't available, I had to act as a patient. It was fun.
I had students do a debate. That was a lot of fun. I almost felt like it wasn't enough time for the class. It was all class time. I used 2 class periods for it, and they got people that had never spoken got ridiculously into it, and it was all the other students were like, whoa. So it was really nice to see people that, you know, because if you get passionate about anything, you're going to speak up no matter if you're shy or not.
So did you choose which side of the debate they went on? Or?
No, I had them give me I told them the next 2 days you can tell me the side, or you don't tell me the side that you want to be on, and I'll assign you a side. So most of them felt really strongly the other way.
And you didn't have any, like everybody's like all on one side?
It was a mix. It was, yeah, it was on pre-exposure for classes in HIV, so it was definitely a good mix. Yeah.
And so I'll tell you a couple of things that I do that have worked well. Kind of a little quirky. So probably the quirkiest one, and I forgot who said it, but I sort of use the students as props too for one thing. So it's one lecture. It's kind of an organizational behavior / marketing kind of block what we do, and I'm teaching them, for good or for bad, I'm teaching them. Some of you know the powers of persuasion. So these are sort of the subtle subconscious techniques that salesmen are taught to get you to want to acquiesce to them. So there's kind of 6 major principles. And so what I will do, especially and I use a lot of this kind of car salesman stuff. And so I'll ask for students to come down and volunteer. Now usually we'll get volunteers that aren't the ones who talk, which is kind of surprising. You think it's the ones who talk. So they'll come down, and say it's very safe, and everything there. You just have to kind of play along. So I'll play along and show, for instance, I'm trying to sell a car, and I will use, one of the principles is the kind of the rule of scarcity. So when you think something is scarce, and you may lose that opportunity, it makes you want to buy it. So what I'm trying to teach them is not how to use these principles to make other people buy stuff, but it's more on their personal end kind of learning. So then I use the thing, I say, we have this car. I said, you like this car? Yeah. So I have a good picture of a car up on the thing. We talked about it a little bit. And then I was going to tell them, I said, there's someone who's in here early this morning. She's coming back this afternoon at 2 o'clock to buy. She's probably going to buy it. And I told her that, if she waits till 2, it may be gone. But she said, I can't come back with it until 2 o'clock. And I'll sell it to you if you want to. I'm not going to promise I'm holding to her. So I kind of go through and use them as props to think, okay, see how this is used against you. So I use those kind of principles. And that tends to get good reviews on the instructor evaluations, and some of the students even told me that when I was taught it, because now they looked at it differently. It wasn't like I could have told them what these 6 rules are and how they work, which I sort of did afterwards, but it was pretty clear to them. They didn't have to do a lot of explaining. This is what I can use the rule of scarcity. So that's one. The other thing I do is sort of what I've done with you today to some degree, is I use a lot of the clips from The Office. And Mostly those are clips of how not to do, business or managerial or human relations or those types of things. But use, just little 1 to 3 minute clips that will start out a section or be in the middle of a section. And I try to do it in the middle, so because for the most part I can get their attention for the very first part and then use it to bring that attention back, teach them a little bit, bring that attention back. So use, in a 50-minute session would probably show maybe 4 minute and a half, 2-minute clips. So have you thought of anything now, so that we've heard this, have you thought anything now that you may want to use or may sort of you're thinking about that you would kind of want to share that you might do now? Okay.
I often, when the class starts, usually I'm like, okay, these are the objectives, and I go for, I think easing them in, maybe starting with a story from clinic, or starting with some video, or starting with something easy
Less
them in, like I
intimidating.
said, yeah. It's like, okay, it's, 9:00, try to start now.
And that's typically, for the most part, that's almost how I've started. A lot, not all the time, but a lot. But I think based on from what I've heard now, I'm going to probably do a little more so with that. And may do like somebody said, I may, so 9 o'clock, so as not to take up class time and just kind of be wasting class time. I may start those types of things, whatever it might be, that aren't pertinent, aren't test material, a little bit earlier, so that I'm not wasting too much class time. So you have something?
I think I'm really stuck in PowerPoint mode, so I need to maybe open myself up to other things besides, or trying to incorporate a video once in a while or something a little bit more interesting than just a PowerPoint lecture. But technology I stood up in front of the classroom before and had technology completely backfire on me. So I'm not like this crazy tech person. So it's a balance for me if I want to be more uncomfortable up there, or I just want to go with what I know will work. So.
Anybody else? All right. So, I've got some series of things. And this is, Evan might appreciate this because similar backgrounds, very similar backgrounds, is that when I'm ever asked to give a talk about anything related to teaching and learning and talking about strategies or things to do or certain strategies or how do you use technology for this or how do you use Web 2.0 for this or whatever it might be, those are the hardest, most difficult talks for me to give because it goes against the way I think. The way I think and the way I approach this is, okay, what is it you're trying to teach and what is your learning objective? Then I can say, okay, this route would be a good way, or this route, or this route. But when I have to go and say, okay, these are some things that you can use without really knowing what it is you're trying to get out of it, I find it very difficult because I can't make it, this is not natural to me. But I notice kind of show some things, some different things to discuss and talk about that might be miscellaneous kind of potential strategies. Now, I put potential because it doesn't apply across the board. But the one thing I do want to talk a little bit about, and I don't like this term because it's used too much, I think flipped classroom model. So how many of you heard the term flipped classroom? Okay. So most of you heard the term. So the flipped classroom model, relatively new, and essentially what it is it takes where the typical classroom environment is, you come to class, you get information through a lecture, and then you're assigned some homework, and then so students go away and do the homework, and they come back and you sort of repeat that. It's sort of reversing that. So the students beforehand are given the homework or the pre-readings or recorded lectures, so they're getting the information on their own time. Then they come in the classroom, and then that classroom time is then used to do for the homework. So that reverses the faculty's time is basically used instead of delivering information, it's working with you, with the students to work through problems, discuss, solve, do the what-ifs, and helping with the critical thinking. There's hundreds of different ways of doing this. The probably the common way, and the easiest way, and probably a thing that I'm actually considering doing a little bit in my course, not completely, I'm not going completely that way, at least for now, is to do maybe a 10 or 15-minute lecture on whatever topic it is. So, given this 10 to 15-minute lecture, recording that, if there's any written information that goes along, and maybe it's a textbook reading, maybe it's an article, maybe it's something totally different. But that is assigned to do before you come to class. And then the class time is going to be used all for problems and working problems and solving and or discussing. Obviously the issue, not an issue, an issue with that is, okay, it puts a little bit more time up front for you. Because now it's pretty easy, if you've already, especially if you've already done this before, you kind of got your materials, you can go into class, you teach, you know how to do it, it's done. This means, okay, now you got to schedule some time. Maybe you have to pare down that 50-minute lecture and you pare it down to 15 minutes or 20 or whatever it is. You have to go and record it. You have to find what is the other, where else can they get this information and read it from. And then you have to figure out, okay, so now what I'm going to do in the 50 minutes in class, how do I design this so it goes the way I want to go? Am I breaking students up in groups of 5? Am I doing a whole class thing? We're doing one at a time. But what that does, and theoretically and philosophically, it gets us at more of what most of us really like to do, and that's like working with students. I think any faculty member I've ever talked to about this subject is you really enjoy working with the students one-on-one or in small groups of helping them think through something, explain something, correct, and give them something else to think about, actually working with them versus standing up here and kind of blanking them with stuff, and you just hope some of it kind of falls in and falls in the right places. Do any of you, sorry, I kind of mentioned this, do any of you do anything like that now?
Yeah, actually in our accreditation care, I usually try doing just some lectures, some cases with them, and then ask the students to prepare beforehand to do cases and have a discussion, and even trying to interact with them and call on them. Didn't work really well. So instead I changed it around and just did the first basically 20 minutes in terms of lecture. They had to do the rest of the case, everything on their own. Brought them back in and said, okay, guess what? You guys teach everybody else. So I bring random groups up there, and we had really good discussions as far as these cases, what the concepts were, and everybody could apply it. It worked much, much better that way. Yeah, very similar.
Good. Anybody else?
I guess an elective I did last year was based completely on that model. Students would read journal articles, and then we would come back to class and we would discuss not only, the articles were usually clinical studies, so we would discuss the merits of the study, we would discuss what they could have done better, and then they usually had to summarize, write a 2-page summary of whatever they did, and then come up and design a new study basically in that summary itself. So got a lot of students talking about things. We saw videos, movies. It was an interesting class.
Not here, but when in Shenandoah, took a 15-week research methods course, pre-recorded the lectures for everything. So notes, slides, audio, everything was pre-recorded and pre-packaged, given to the students the week prior. And then when they came into class, it became we used it as 2 contact hours instead of 3, bundled together. So we took the 2 hours together. And then when they came in, we did clear point, money point discussions for the first 20 minutes. And then we moved into case discussion and applied casework for the rest of the class.
So I think the thing that is illustrated here, the other examples, is that our value as instructors is, our value is not to deliver the content, really. Because they can get the content, we can get the content as a textbook, read it, we could easily write something up and you can deliver that content, they can get that content. Our value then is helping them think through that content and apply it and think, okay, so what's unique, what's novel, how does this apply to something else? And so that flipped classroom model sort of gets at that, is they get that content on their own. Spend your time where you're really making a difference of helping them, guiding them, thinking through. Just a couple of the others, was there another one? Oh, yes.
I was just gonna say several faculty that I've talked to recently have been teaching immunology or other places. One of the models they use is this just-in-time. I don't know if you've heard of it, anybody's heard of it. What they usually do is they have students read the material for the lecture prior to class, and then what they'll do is the students will identify areas that they really don't understand and let the professor know, and then the professor will talk about those, only those areas in class. And apparently it's a great system, it works really well.
And so how much, so here's the thing from the professor, how much advance time does the professor have? Like they identify those, when do they provide the questions?
Well, I guess the professor's prepared anyways
Right,
for
sure.
the entire
It
class,
should be,
so
right.
it's, yeah. So, I mean, I don't know how much time they're
You don't
given,
know
but
if it's like right before class, or if they need to submit them before or anything?
but perhaps they know everything in their syllabus, like, you know, we're gonna be covering these topics and these, you know, and so just read up this material beforehand. With the 75 number class, I mean, I don't know how easy, I mean, most of these people are in undergraduate institutions, their class size is 25. So, you know, I mean, okay, 25 different people tell you, this is what I want you to talk about. And I guess you could identify the most important ones.
I guess.
But the thing is, like, reading 75 emails or 75 summaries might be a little bit hard, like, for each lecture, so.
Yes, yeah, actually I was trying to say along with your thoughts about like our job is kind of to get more the information for them to see.
Right.
So for my elective class in public health, I had some websites that they were supposed to review. And based on the class lectures, they had to give a presentation, and it was individual, not really because it's elective. And they had to tell me how the website connected to public health and pharmacy. And if they see pharmacists working in these areas. And it was really great how they connected the dots.
Okay.
I really liked it.
Yeah, so you gave them the
Yeah,
venue to do
website,
it?
yes.
And then,
Yeah.
okay. So I'll talk a little bit about our curricular reform that's going on. And this is, so we're in the middle of it. And I don't know if this will go this way or not, but sort of some of the way we're kind of thinking about our reform is that really a quasi-flipped classroom model. And the classroom time that our students are actually in the classroom is less than what it is now. So significantly less. Instead of spending 4 to 5 hours every day in class, now we're looking at 2 or 3 days a week of 2 to 3 hours in class. That class time, though, is what we call the high-touch time. And it's all kind of this hands-on, very little lecture piece. Maybe, maybe it's 10 minutes at the beginning to kind of really cover some really super key points, and then delving into the rest. Or maybe it's 10 minutes at the beginning, getting those questions of, okay, well, so what was muddy, what was not clear? Let me kind of try to clear that up for everybody before we start working into it. So that's sort of part of the way we're thinking. So some of the different things, so I'm asked to do several talks on social media for teaching and learning, and it's one of those that I don't, even though I like it and I like the topic, I don't like giving that talk because it's presupposing that this strategy is going to work for whatever it is you want to do. For me, so for my course, the way I will utilize social media in a way that I think that has been very popular and has been very, I think, very good at helping the students learn, particularly those who really are interested in this topic and who want to do more, is we have a Facebook group, and it is an optional. So there's lots of issues that we want to get into with social media, Facebook, and using for teaching and learning. But it's optional in the fact that I don't want to force students who don't want to be on Facebook to get on Facebook to do this. And what we use that group for, so with that group, and Evan's been part of this group, so you know, invited you there. So it's just we kind of share stories, we share topics, things that are related to the course that I'm not actually going to teach about or lecture about. Maybe we do lecture about it to some degree, and it's kind of a correlate, but it's a piece of information that's sort of real life. And it's interesting, we get a lot of, when I look at kind of statistics of it, there's not a whole lot of commenting on it like a discussion board. There's a lot of views, but what I noticed then is a lot of hallway conversations. A lot of people seem to come to before class or after class and say, and refer to something that was posted, whether it's by me or some of the other guests, that for whatever reason they talk about. So they get involved and really engaged in this. And they also like it. I mean, the other things they like about the fact is we posted this stuff, it comes through on their feed, they read it if they want to, if it's something they're really interested in or they think it sounds intriguing to, they'll read it. If it's not, they won't, which is fine, because we make it purely optional. But they also said it's things that they would never do on their own. They'd never do it on their own, and they have also said if it was like, so why didn't I just put it in Blackboard? If it was posted in Blackboard, they wouldn't go look at it if it wasn't for points, because it's like you have to go somewhere. You have to go, click, 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 and get to it. Whereas this, it comes across, and just like, so their nature now of seeing things, you know, they get this steady stream of constant information, and they dip in and get what pieces they want to get, and let the rest kind of go by. That's one way. I'm just curious, if anyone here used any type of social media in any way for the teaching and learning? And how did you use it?
I experimented with it in Twitter and things like that. It just was too much of a hassle.
Twitter is difficult to use.
Like I tried to do, 2 computers, if I had a live feed during class, and I just found myself getting way too distracted.
So Natalia asked me, because she was at a session I did, I think at AACP, there's a program called Today's Meet, TODAYSMEET. And it is, it's a back channeling tool. So if any of you know what back channeling is, it's kind of big in conferences now, so that the back channel goes on all the time. So the instructor, the presenter is up here talking about whatever topic, but the people in the back are kind of talking to each other about it, whether they're agreeing or disagreeing on that. So this back channel is always going on, but this brings the back channel to light, for good or for bad. And it permits the side conversations to be viewable. So if you think it's like a chat, so basically what a chat is. So I showed Today's Meet, and so Today's Meet, essentially you just log, you go to Today's Meet, you create a, I don't know what they call it, it's like a room. You send out the URL, and for the people in the class, if there's questions or they have comments, you just kind of type it in and it just shows up. And so the idea behind it is that if there's a question, other people might answer it. If not, it's there in this feed. So I did this at a presentation once just to show it, sort of like you did, and it's very difficult to do, to teach, and to keep your mind on what you're trying to teach and what you're going to say, and then you have this going on and trying to keep your eye on this, and then attend to that, so it's very difficult.
So it's displayed?
It can be displayed. It can be or cannot be, however you want to do it. If you've got 2 monitors, so if you have a dual projection, which you don't have here, like in our class, when you have dual projectors.
What I did was put it on one side and try to have like a threaded discussion.
Right, so
or
we
just people goofing off.
Yeah.
So it just
So I'm thinking I teach physical exam.
Okay.
So if I'm in the classroom and I'm teaching them physical exam and they're trying it out or trying to figure it out, would they be typing in, well, I don't hear it. Do you hear it? I don't understand what I'm supposed to be. I wonder if that would be a good tool. I don't know.
It might. So I will tell you kind of the experiences with this. Good experiences and bad experiences, and both not with me, but with others who want to try it. So some have tried it, and they've gotten side chatter that you can imagine was off topic. So the one thing that I remember, because the very first time a faculty member tried it, I went and just got to sit in the room and just kind of watch it. And so you sort of see the very first thing that came up, because this is a number, so the name you put in is going to be whatever. So automatically you can kind of see the things that can happen. You don't have to put in your own name and register. So you can automatically know what's going to happen. But the first person puts in, they have their name. And the first person thing they put in is A/S/L. And if any of you are familiar with the chat room terminology of 10 years ago, it's age, sex, location. And so then somebody put in 25 female Lexington, and then I started went on. So for the first 5 minutes, it was all that kind of stuff. It was all that kind of stuff. It was all that kind of. Then when they got it out of their system, for the most part, they got it out of the system, novelty world. Then there were questions or comments from the instructor that was, talking. So I don't understand how this applies to this, whatever it was. So there was some valuable things come from there. She didn't address it then. She was kind of like collecting it all. So you get a transcript at the end, and then was going to go back and look through the transcript and see if there are things that I can do better or things or not. The other way to utilize this, and the thing that worked well for me when I gave this presentation, because I had to get it back to back. And the first time I tried to monitor it myself with this thing, and they wanted me to do it. I didn't really like doing that, so I monitored it by myself, and it was very hard for me to keep track. It was just, and I don't think my presentation went well because I couldn't keep my cognitive thoughts straight. What I'm going to say, and looking over here, responding to that, then going back to what I was going to say. The second time, there was someone else that monitored that. And that worked like a piece of cake, because all I did was concentrate on my presentation, and then I paused every like 5 to 10 minutes. And she had been monitoring and said, okay, here's 2 common questions that are coming up that you haven't answered. Worked great. Worked great. And I would do that again in a heartbeat if I had someone to monitor it for me. So maybe you have a graduate assistant, maybe you have a TA, maybe you have a ACCE student, and somebody like that that can do that for you. That is one way of doing that. And that utilizes the technology in a way for good, utilizing technology for good. Be advised that it is fraught with danger. There was other things that you see was you were posing as other professors. So there wasn't a Dr. Cain there, but there was Dr. So-and-so and Dr. So-and-so, and they were making their comments as they went along. The students were very much engaged because they were very much engaged because they were making the comments about the lecture as the professor, who wasn't really the professor. So that is one method. So let's talk kind of for discussion. So this is one thing that I've learned recently. So when I'm going to class and I want discussion, I anticipate discussion, topics for discussion. I want them to talk. One little kind of strategy or tip for this is to give them either at the beginning of the class or as I have homework, you use like 5 minutes. Tell them some topics or some questions or whatever it be. You give them 5 minutes to write down their thoughts and their responses. So then when discussion time comes, they've had adequate time to form their thoughts and have it written down so it's not on the spot. So they've had that time to think about it, go over and say, okay, am I going to look at the full, research it if they need to research it, and then have their responses. That is something that I'm going to use in the future, because from what I've read on there, that works charmingly well. And it's just a little bit, and even if it's just 5 minutes, give them the questions, give them the thoughts to think about. So when it comes time you ask the questions, they've already thought about it. So it's not kind of on the spot. They've already thought about it, and they're kind of willing to share. Some people with the discussion need that minimum number of responses, especially if it's one that's going to have a wide thing, because a lot of times you'll ask a question, the one person will answer it, and then everybody's quiet because, okay, the question's already been answered. But ask if it's one of these that you might be multiple perspectives or multiple ways of addressing a problem, to say, okay, I'm going to have three answers, 4 answers, 5 answers. So these engagement-focused questions versus, do you think that this is the right drug regimen to use? Well, that's a yes or no question. And lots of times you'll get the very short questions. But these engagement-focused questions are a little different. So you have a question, maybe it's a multiple choice, but you have multiple right answers. So then you have the thing of, if people will see the right answer, then you get the debate of engagement of why this one is better than the other one, which is in many ways what a lot of test questions be. When you have multiple right answers, but there are some that's better than the other. The opinion questions are always ones that are going to get more engagement. You can see the select and defend. So these are your debate types of things. So you select your side and defend it, or you're assigned side and defend it. The change is another one, just, we kind of talked about this before, introduce some type of change, just change up. You've been lecturing for 10, 15 minutes now, show a video, stop, have the students do something, whatever that change might be. Stories, those are kind of self-explanatory. Okay. And the 3. Any questions on anything here? Or anything else before I go? Okay. All right, so one of the things I was going to have you do, actually probably not, is, okay, yeah, so I'm going to do this. So we'll have 10 minutes and then we'll take a break at 3. Anything, so a lot of the things we've talked about before, but these are kind of 4 sort of big things. Do you have any, any strategies that you use to do any of this? Some of this we've discussed before, and some of it we may not have. Yes.
I sometimes just put a picture and no writing on the slide.
Okay.
And I tell them, look at this picture. What does this picture or diary tell you?
Okay, so you're stimulating curiosity.
Right. And different students learners have different answers, and then I try to connect and
Okay.
look at what it's supposed to say.
Good. What's an example of a picture that you use?
I would put like for Medicare Part B when I teach healthcare policy. So I want to make a point that I really have too many Medicare Part B plans. So I put a picture of the United States in a different region and the different number of plans that we have. I think New York has 29, and I think Massachusetts has 30. So I was like, is that too many? So we kind of talk about that, and they stay on the top.
Okay. Anybody else?
I think I tell too many stories.
In what way?
I teach physical exams, so and I do it in my clinic and in my practice, so I always have some brand imitation story that goes with it, and I'm sitting here questioning, maybe I just tell too many stories.
So what makes you think there's too many?
I don't know, but I have had students who are, if we're saying, but I have had maybe students come on, while they're in rotation, and they'll spend a half a day with me, and a patient will say something, and we'll walk, the patient will leave, and they'll be like, really, don't make this stuff up. And I'm like, I'm telling you, I couldn't make it up if I tried. So I think the few that have seen my practice get it, but sometimes I just feel like they're sitting there like, oh, here she is again with another story. I don't know.
I don't think she's so well. I think that they'd like to have an ask her in our class, actually. What do you recommend specifically when we're trying to be broad about products? Well, you've been at it for so long. What do you recommend? They ask for the story,
Yeah.
sort of.
Yeah, we made a point of not saying, I recommend this particular product. We wanted them to make their own choices and decisions, and I think the product showcase helped that, but yet they were still looking for us to say,
What's the
this one has the edge over the other ones, which we got that feedback early enough in the semester that we did sort of steer towards a more select.
Well, I can say then that gives you that opportunity to say, okay, you need information. This is what I would do. But then this is why. And give them your thinking process. So that's probably what they're looking for. They're like, how do you think through this? You're the expert. How do you think through this and come to your answer? That's the value you're providing them. You're providing them, this is how I think about it, versus they're memorizing, okay, you have this problem, this is the answer. I think that's right.
I think the stories really add a lot of relevance, and this is why you're learning this, because in practice, I'm seeing this person with hypertension and counseling this way. So I think the stories actually help them, and when I taught practice lab, I would tell them, the reason I'm telling you this is because so they can help to make that connection, because otherwise I'm just standing there and they're like, who cares, whatever, I don't need to know this, but I'm trying to relate it, and sometimes there's stories, but.
I think a lot of times, I have to agree, and I think a lot of times you emphasize by telling stories, by being a pharmacist, why we take things seriously. Because I think with all this consumerism and them seeing education as a product, in the end, they forget that they're not going to graduate and go and dispense candies. This is serious. And by telling stories and telling different situations of what happens if so-and-so happens, if you don't follow through, or if you, just, you know, random examples, you can emphasize that this is serious, guys. That, you know, you're going to have a very serious job at one day.
That this really happens.
This really happened.
I think, like, some topics that they don't necessarily see the relevance, like communication, sometimes they don't see it. Then, like, when I was teaching the other day MTM, I was saying, well, this patient had been asked over and over again if they get chest pain, and they kept saying no and no and no. But the minute I said, well, what do you do for exercise? And they said, I can't exercise because my heart hurts when I exercise. No one had ever asked them a little bit a different way and open-ended. And stories like that can make them say, oh, I guess communication is helpful. I wasn't thinking about it that way and how. So sometimes they have to see, like, I'm here to learn about drugs, I'm a pharmacist, but my way of communicating is going to help me get information.
Give them more value.
In the beginning of our cardiovascular piece, we had a patient with heart disease come in and speak to the class about the relevance. Actually, I think, too, I can think back, this is a long time ago, when I was in school, we had somebody come in, and when we were talking about peritoneal dialysis, did the exchange in front of us. So, I mean, that really first-handedly shows the relevance of what they're learning.
I think real life is great. I've done 3 times when I said, oh, this is a topic that was definitely on my board, and all of them were like, you know, so I feel like you can make that up, and they're just immediately engaged because they feel like they have to memorize that.
It's not an exam, it's a story, it's a board.
We should do that with everything.
This is on the board.
That's on the board, yes.
One thing I would always do with that, a lot of, when I was in my previous job, a lot of people would want to go into the medical profession. So they're like, why would I need to know simple acid-based chemistry titration? And so a nice little story I give is we have a patient coming to your hospital, and they drank from toilet clog or declogger. I'm like, well, which one is it? Because one's an acid, one's a base, and you have to neutralize it. So either, if you don't know what it is, you can't do the titration properly. So the thing is, that puts into context, oh wait, this could save a life, or I could kill them if I give them more acid to neutralize an acid. So that way, you know, that makes them steps back and think that, you know, not only the math is important, the chemistry and what they drank.
And this stuff happens. We had a patient who drank pine soap. Yeah.
Happens all the time,
All.
probably. I don't know.
After winter.
It smells good. Oh, it's
inside. It's like
with Lysol.
seasonal. It's seasonal. Yeah, it was a pine soap. It was at that time. Pine soap was popular. So that's bleach. Bleach is like every winter somebody drinks.
Is it by purpose or by accident?
Oh no, it's just yeah.
Yeah, just following up on that, I think it would be really helpful for me as a scientist to have more of a dialogue with the pharmacists, because I don't necessarily, I can't tell those stories. I don't have that experience, but I would love to know what your experiences are so I can refer to them. So maybe.
So everybody email Matt here.
I need some material.
You know, so when I tried to realize that, what I did was this. Matt's going to
Well, I think Matt's point is well taken, because one of the things I do hear from the folks in farm side courses is how do they create the relevance of the curriculum to a student to say, as a pharmacist, I will do this or apply this. And I mean, I've heard it from folks in all sorts of different courses, whether it, even in, I mean, you know, Dan and I have talked about it, but even in pharmacology to some degree, you still have that piece, and it's pharmacology. So I think it would benefit all through, and including the pharmat, although with Dave teaching pharmacy administration, Dave's got 1,001 stories, we probably need to ask him. But
He's a
I think
walking storyteller.
he is a walking, he's a tone.
One of the things I feel like
It's like an hour
important
story.
for practice people to re-emphasize the importance of those courses. Like, I feel like that will, like in my HIV course, I a lot of times said, well, you already learned this in immunology, tell me about what you learned in immunology, and if not, I would ask them to go back to their text and read it. So I feel like it's important for us to get them to go back to that and remember why they went through those courses.
There was some stuff, and I don't know if you've seen it, Jeff, where they actually were looking at, instead of writing the objectives going forward, you write the objectives coming back. So you say, beginning with kind of the cover, begin with the end in mind, and it's, instead of saying, in this course you will learn, it's, as a pharmacist you will apply. And writing it so for medicinal chemistry or biochemistry or immunology, as a pharmacist you will use the outcomes of this course to do the following. And you write patient-specific examples of how the course relates to something. I don't know if you've seen that. I mean, it's
It sounds familiar. I don't know, because I've seen that or we just discussed it elsewhere, but yeah. It almost seems like something we discussed at the academic affairs committee. Well, maybe it came up there. Maybe you gave that example then, I don't know.
I think some of the things you're talking about, the science is talking, I know, for example, Ron came down in the cardiovascular and sat, and we went through, and he's like, well, what would be important pieces from your end? And that's the things that you stressed when you're talking about the med chem. So I think our integrated courses have that great opportunity to pair up like that, and I encourage everybody to have those discussions as they're preparing their materials. I think it works very nicely.
Especially with those ones, because like, this is a very, 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 very common side effect, which necessarily may not be mentioned in the book that I'm using. And therefore, now that, for me it was interesting, oh really? You look into why, and then you can throw the chemistry and the biology behind it when you're talking about it. Whereas normally it would just be a blank slate. I'm like, I didn't know that, why would I know that? Or this drug is really never used, but it's highlighted in the book. How would I know that? And that's why these discussions are important.
Okay, so let's take 10-minute break, or where it was in the last session, which is going to be talking about some questions. So it's a whole lot of this discussion, basically. But you've not had enough discussion. So it goes.
Kim, you know, when the group is
No later than